might be used to. So I'd like to invite you to put down your pens at any time and just be here. And feel free to take notes as well. So the topic today is what the fall teaches us, right? And when we look outside, why don't we all first take a deep breath? So what does the fall teach us? You know, every year it teaches us something new, but it looks the same, right? There are these trees that are green, and then they change colors, and then the leaves fall, and then we have bare trees waiting for the winter to come. And for those of you who've read my reflection a few months ago, some of what I say will be kind of intertwined into this. But what happens is that there was a nor'easter in 2011, and for those of you who remember, the trees, it was early October, the trees were full of leaves, and what happened? It fell down, right? Thousands of trees were lost that had been there for hundreds of years, and yet we lost them simply because they had leaves on them. Because the trees understand that in order to grow again in the spring, in order to go inside first during the winter, they have to let go of what is now, be ready for the winter, and then move into the spring. What happened was that the leaves were stuck to the trees, the snow fell on the leaves, made the branches too heavy, and so the twigs snapped, and then later branches snapped, and entire trees fell. Whereas now, as they shed, so come winter, the snow will come and it will fall in between all of the branches, right? E.M. Forster says, we must be willing to let go of the life we have planned so to have the life that is waiting for us, right? There's this life waiting for us. And we have this plan. How many of us have grown up in whether it was our family, our community, our teachers, TV, movies, shows, whatever it was that informed our life, books, and that it told us it was going to be a certain way. Do really well in school so that you can go into great college. Do really well in college so you can get a great job. Get a great job so you can have so you can get married, have a white picket fence, and have 2.5 kids, right? There's this thing that we're told we need to do, and yet how many of us are really in that stereotype? Most human beings are not. There's this stereotype that happens that we're told to be, and this entire process is all about what's happening next. Do this so that, do this so that, do this so that. Go to work so that you can support your family. What about go to work so you can enjoy what you're doing? What would happen then? What if we went to school because we enjoyed learning? Be here and now. Let go of the plan for the life that you had so you can have what we have right now. And that's the brilliance of nature. It totally gets what we have now. Right now is fall, and so now I'm gonna let go. And at the same time, I prep for winter, right? Because part of the fall is prepping for winter, and yet the fall is its own season. Both of those things are true. And so yes, I'm prepping for that, but I'm also here. When I was putting myself through school, I did it in two ways. I did bookkeeping for different offices, as well as I was a declutterer. And I would go into people's homes and offices and declutter both physical space and their books, right? So that's what I used to do. And what I realized and what I learned from doing that was that we need to let go of the stuff that we carry so that we have room for a new thing to happen, right? Empty our closets of things that don't fit, and all of a sudden we get new clothing that do, right? It happens organically. We spent last weekend with my daughter, and we were decluttering her entire room and all of her clothing, and all of a sudden on Monday she comes into the kitchen, she goes, wow, every single item in my closet fits. All I have to decide is what I want to wear, right? There's something so amazing in that moment. And yet we all have things that don't fit in our closets. We all have things that we don't use. And imagining opening our closet and having every single thing that's in there fit us, like the way that it looks, and be ready, right? And so we have to let go of stuff so that new things come in. But letting go is its own process as well. So these past few months since May, I've been redoing my website. It went live yesterday, so I'm really excited. But I've been redoing a website, and having been doing coaching for 10 or 11 years now, what I've noticed is that every few years one needs to update their website. That's what happens. Websites go out of style. I do different things now inspire me, and so I want that to reflect on my website, especially the kind of work that I do, which is public speaking and workshop, a lot of it, as well as one-on-one coaching. People need to know who I am when they go to my website, and so if I've changed, my website needs to change, right? So in early I think 2015, I realized that my website was so out of date. I think it was like 4 years old, but it wasn't so out of date as I had changed so much that I needed to show the world and to shift what I was putting out there. But what happened was I can only build it slowly, because I can only let go of my old stuff slowly, even if I had changed. So first, I shifted my old website, right? So I did the cover page differently, and then I did the About Me differently, and just like different things that I was kind of shifting. So I slowly let go of that process until all of a sudden, and then I started creating new. And as I was creating the new, I kept shifting my old website because it was still live, right? So my bio changed, and different workshops changed, and things kind of like that kind of shifted. And then yesterday I stepped into it and said, okay, and now here's my new website. So it looks different, it is different, and I was only able to do it because I was willing to let go of something that I had worked on really hard 5 years ago. I spent hours doing that 5 years ago, and there was a part of me that was really, really resentful. I was resentful that I had to now redo it. I'm still doing the same job. I still have the same practice. Everything is the same. Why do I have to redo my website? And there was tremendous resentments there. But once I can let go of the resentment, I can then let go of what I thought it had to look like and step into this incredible dynamic of what happened. And if you have a chance today or whenever, if you feel like it, like look at my website. I don't know if you'll love it, but I love it. And that's what matters, right? That I stepped into my own power and I said, okay, this is where I'm at, right? So where do we see letting go? We see letting go in nature very clearly this time of year. We walk, I know that I walk to the train twice a week. I work in the city for a nonprofit, and I walk to the train and I'm crunching on leaves every single day. And I'm marveling at the ability of these leaves to just let go over and over and over again. Every year they start again. They start the process. They start the process, and they start the process again. And then come spring and they're blooming because they know that they will. If we can simply trust, that if we let go of the things that are stuck, or the mindsets that keep us really tight, or the things that we're doing that are no longer working for us, if we can truly trust that we can let go of that, we bloom again. It's inevitable. Every time we shed our own skin, we step into this new reality of what it is. But in order to let go, we must trust. That's kind of what happens. We must trust. So this incredible Hasidic story and of this rabbi, his name is Rabbi Zusha of Anikoli, and he was extremely poor rabbi who lived in town and was the rabbi of the town. And he had a servant who lived with him, and every morning Zusha would wake up and he would say, "God, Zusha's hungry," and the servant would come and bring him a whole plate of food. Every day, right? Or it would be dinner time, and he would say, "God, Zusha's hungry, Zusha's hungry," and out would come the servant with food. One day the servant was mad, and he's like, "Really? Why don't you say, Moshe, Zusha's hungry, Moshe's bringing you the food. Why are you asking God for your food?" And he felt completely unappreciated. And so what did he do? He decided one day he was taking the day off. And he went out. He comes back at 9 o'clock at night, and he sees the table laden with food. Not just like a dinner, but like a banquet. And he walks in, and he starts yelling at the rabbi, because at this point, he's not only upset that his plan didn't work, right? But he's also frustrated that he didn't try. He doesn't even know what's going on. All he knows is that something happened here that is not really working. And so he runs into Reb Zusha and he says, "Zusha, I don't understand. What happened here?" He says, "What do you mean?" "I called out to God. I said, God, Zusha's hungry." And the food was there. And so now the servant knows that, that's not really what happened. So he goes into town and he starts asking around. "Anybody know who came to the rabbi today? Anybody know who came to the rabbi today? Anybody know?" And he finds out that there was this merchant who had come through town. And he and his wife hadn't had children in a long time. And he wanted a blessing from the rabbi. And so he had asked around. And he came to the rabbi's house and nobody was there. And he heard the rabbi studying in his study. And he didn't feel right coming in and knocking. So he said to himself, he sat there an hour and two, and at one point he's like, the rabbi's gonna have to come out and eat. Like, he's gonna have to come out and eat. So if I bring him food, I will have the opportunity to talk to him. And so sure enough, he goes out, he gets the food, he sits down, and he's waiting, and sure enough, God, Zusha is hungry, right? And he says, "Oh, perfect." He opens the door and he comes in with a banquet because he already had planned to give this food. And so he has the conversation with the rabbi, he asks for a blessing, and he leaves. So the beautiful thing about Hasidic stories, as with any old folk stories, are that whether they're true or not, they have messages, right? We don't know if this really happened, but this is the story, right? For me, they don't say this story. So it probably happened something similar, or maybe not. Maybe it's totally a fable, but it has a message. And what's the message here? And the message here is twofold. Number one, Zusha trusted that food would come. Number two, Zusha asked for food to come, right? So what does that mean? If I sit in my house and I trust clients will come, I'm not doing anything, no one's coming. No one's coming. I need to do more than just say, "Hey, I'm hungry," to get clients, right? I need to be out there, I need to network, I need to work with people, I need to tell people what I'm doing, because that's what I need to do in order to get what I need. But there must be a trust factor. So I tell you what I do, and then I trust and I walk away. It is the paradox of life. Just like the only thing constant is change, and we see that in nature, we see that everywhere. In life, there's this constant paradox of trusting and doing, and doing and trusting. I remember when I was like 12 years old, I asked, one of my mom's friends were talking to me about child raising and child rearing and stuff, and she said to me, "I pray like I'm not doing anything, and I parent like I'm not praying." Right? And that's the paradox. That's the paradox we sit in. And so we let go, and we step into what's now. And we trust. And we keep stepping into what's now so that the future can show up. Otherwise, the future doesn't show up. If all I'm doing is letting go and not prepping, then the future doesn't show up. Or at least I'm not getting ready for that future that I want to show up. Any questions? So in the major religions, we have surrender, right? So letting go means to surrender, right? So in most major religions, we have surrender. I brought 3 examples. Number 1, in Christianity, we have it over and over and over, but I brought a quote from Mark. And going a little further, he fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass for him. And he said, Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will. Right? Jesus over and over again submits to the divine, over and over and over again. Islam, in its very name, means, anyone? Islam means surrender. Islam, in its very name, in its very core, means to surrender. And the reasons that Muslims pray 5 times a day and actually bow to the ground is because they surrender. They let go. They totally surrender in that way. In Hinduism, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to the warrior Arjuna, and he who serves me with a yoga of unswerving devotion transcends these qualities, the binary opposite like good and evil, pain and pleasure, and is ready for liberation. So here again, in Hinduism, which is one of the most practiced traditions now in the world today, they have that same process of surrender. It's an interesting piece because we're so used to holding. Why do we hold? Why do we hold? Anyone? Why do we hold? Fear, right? Safety.
It's familiar, you know,
Familiar,
security.
right?
Entitlement.
Entitlement. History. Right? So most of us will rather have the goo of what we know than the beauty of what we can have. Because it's so terrifying to do this. And yet the trees do it every year, and we're surrounded by it in this hemisphere. We see it every single day, right? We see it every year over and over again. We hear it in ancient traditions, and whether we believe in God, whether we believe in religion, it doesn't really matter other than it has helped thousands of people. There must be something in there, right? That's what it's about. Whether we believe in God, whether we believe in religion, whether we believe in anything higher than self, what we know is that the reason people are religious is because it helps them in some form. And if this is the underlying piece of so many traditions, what does it teach us here now? In the Jewish tradition, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, are divided in 52 weekly portions, and they're read every week a different portion. And so last week, this past Saturday, what we read was the story of Abraham leaving, right? And the wording is Lech Lecha, go forth, right? Usually translated go forth. He needs to leave where he grew up and where he knows everybody. He needs to leave. He needs to go to this place that God will show him. That's what Abraham has to do. He has to kind of go to this place. Hebrew is an incredible language in terms of that it's not vertical, it goes down. That means we have a root word, and then we put letters in front of it and letters behind it to do prepositions, to shift what the word means, to make it masculine or feminine. All of these things, it has a root word and everything that surrounds it. When you look at the word Lech Lecha, it can mean go forth, but it can also mean go to yourself. That's what the words can also mean. It means go to yourself. When we truly stop and go inward is where we find what we're looking for and how and what we need to let go. And so I'm going to ask your permission to guide you in a meditation and to go so that we can all go inward. Is that okay? Okay, so I'll start with the chant, which is what I started, but this time I'll use the words. And the chant is by Debbie Friedman, and she used these words to create a song. And so we'll start with that, and then we'll go